this is Aromie here. Welcome back to our live Baxter DLC. We're here at a night date at a jazz bar with our friends. Baxter's fingertips tap the counter rhythmically. The soft sounds fade into the din around you. He met your inquisitive glance with confidence.
Not bad.
I knew what I wanted as soon as I saw that name. I firmly appreciate sparkling drinks as well as peaches. What did he get? Something burly? With a wicked smirk, his voice lowered to a husky rumble. I would prefer it without the baby, however. Same here, Baxter, you shouldn't say that. Why am I not saying I think I would laugh. It's only the truth. In the distance, the musicians filtered onto the baby Bellini, right? That's the word. The drink. From the backstage, the sounds of tuning strings took over the soundscape as they prepared for the big event.
Exciting.
The action approaches. There were still a few minutes before he thought the production was scheduled to start. The air was full of anticipation but still relaxed. The two of you chatted over your respective jazz music experience until the waiter arrived with the drinks. The waiter carried a silver platter with stiff formality. He passed out the glasses, not even leaving fingerprints due to his white gloves. Curiously, neither drink had been filled at the bar you were sitting at. He placed a Shirley Temple on the counter in front of you before settling down Baxter's baby Bellini. Thanks. Thank you so much. Gently, Baxter lifted his drink to his lip and sipped at the fruity beverage. He appeared as the very picture of sophistication with a stem glass in hand and a distant, unreachable gaze. Sitting there with him, everything suddenly hit you. His former clothes, his fancy drink, the glamorous setting, and his dazzling smile all came together. He had pulled out all the stops for this adventure. Homie, wanted to make it up. You know, that's a green flag. It felt like a whiplash compared to what happened with a far simpler, much more normal cafe day. It had to be intentional. You were certain that his sparkling glitz was his goal. He'd practically said it out loud with his original invitation. You were never going to underestimate him whenever he got an opportunity to prepare. You picked up your own drink and sampled the refreshment. It was delicious and had a pleasant consistency. After a flicker of lights and an electric moment of silence, you heard the sounds of a keyboard. The crowd hushed, waiting on bated breath, and the rest of the band kicked in. A saxophone cut into the song before being backed by a chorus of trumpets. A bass player strummed along with the drummer kept the time. While the drummer kept the time. Everyone around you strained, on the lookout for something. Nobody was sure what, but they know when they saw it. The double doors at the front opened and all eyes were on a pair as they entered. The leader strode in with her heels clicking against the glowing walkway. Her form-fitting evening gown sparkled in the dazzling lights. She strutted to the center of the room, a grimace on her red-painted lips. Behind her, another actor casually followed. They easily could have been passed over, especially with many of the guests around them dressed far more formally. This character was plain in appearance, especially compared to the glitter of the other. They took quicker steps and reached out. Damn. She's accessorized. But the characters came to an abrupt stop at the center of the room. The glamorous one spoke loudly, letting her words carry over the band. My darling friend, I don't have time for this. I have to prepare for the show and must rest my voice. How else will I manage to sing? The singer sidestepped away from her friend, greatening the space between them. I do not want to discuss this. The friend shrunk away, but refused to back down. There was a fight in the way they stood. The singer sighed. She crossed her arms, her frustration towards the topic making her words bitter. It is more than enough that my parents and his parents keep bothering me. You don't need to add to that number, my dear. I can't leave it alone, not when you're making such a mistake. The singer put her hand up, dismissing her friend. Her movements were as sharp as her stilettos. I repeat, I don't have time for this. I'm going to my dressing room. She swept across the room and then glanced your direction before quickly looking away. She exited through the door near the band. You were struck by her last expression. Was it sorrow? Longing? Either way you had gathered the situation. The two were acquainted and Diva was a performer at the venue. Her friend wasn't. They had come to offer unwanted but likely needed assistance. The music slowed down, suddenly somber after the frenetic energy of the singer's outburst. Her friend hadn't moved. They hugged their arms around themselves and slumped in defeat. You were so focused on them that when a voice came right from behind, you almost fell out of your stool. It's like talking to a brick wall, isn't it? You craned your head over to the bartender. He was the same man who had passed you the drink menu. He was still at work polishing a glass. He was part of the bit all along. That probably wasn't even a real bar. Yet again, their commitment to realism surprised you. The friend took a deep breath before rushing over to the counter. Now that they were closer, you could tell their clenched hands were shaking. They directed a scowl at the bartender in full force. You need to talk to her. Wait, is this still a play or... Is this reality? Unlike when they had spoken to the singer, these words were bitten out. They weren't as close to the bartender and not willing to allow him to the same necessities. What the fuck is this word? Afforded to their friend. The bartender scoffed in their face. He wasn't any fonder of them, but he was trying to retain an ounce of professional decorum. Why would I? I've got no attachment to that lady. None of the crowd was buying it. You heard unconvinced snorts throughout the room. And she acted like I wasn't even here. Besides, she wants the stage and that's it. All I'm good for is watching her, same as everyone else in the world. He gripped the glass tightly. You could faintly hear the polishing cloth squeak against it. But she's not interested in my words, just as she told you. There's no time for that. The friend objected harshly, pointing a finger into the bartender's face. They weren't letting him get away with such falsehood. She can't admit it because you won't admit it. You're making me laugh, kid. The only folks who want us together are you and your and our parents. Wait, the bartender and the diva is together? Or they're supposed to be together, and the friend is trying to be like the glue. He shooed the friend away by flinging his hand through the air. He had the audience captivated, not both of them, half of them flinching from the gesture. I'm working, don't block the bar. The friend tossed their hair at him before they skulked away. They waved at a booth of necklace-wearing guests and then slid onto the edge of the cushion. They rolled their eyes and their entire head along with it, intentionally exaggerating, and their new table mate snickered. I don't know how I put up with either of them. We were starting to get the feel for the show. All the actors' behaviors were turned up to 11 for the sake of comedy, and the heart of the story was clear. The venue singer and his bartender were in love, but wouldn't admit it due to outside pressure and fear that the other didn't feel the same. A clattering sound brought your attention back to the bartender. He put the glass he had been polishing away. With his hands free, he idly glanced around his next task. He settled on you and Baxter. Noticing your lack of bling, his piercing gaze fell to Baxter alone. Can I get you a refill, sir? Or a new drink? He leaned over the counter and nodded pointedly at the friend. They blocked their face with their hand and sunk into the booth, trying to escape the stare. One of the guests at their table happened to have a paper fan and held it out to them. They gratefully took it and hid behind it instead. The bartender shook his head, fed up. Baxter, meanwhile, grinned.
Gladly.
That would be delightful. I could use another baby Bellini. Of course, sir. Even while the picture of poised and polite manners, Baxter gave the air of being quite smug over the formal address. The bartender looked around the shelves of the fake bar, but scratched his head. Oh darn, I'm missing something. I always tell the owners he needs to keep this place better stocked. He grumbled a little more earnest complaints, not one to give up. He thought about his options. The crowd tittered with amusement as a friend peeked out with a flush on their cheek from the other side of the room. If I'm right, there's some in the back. I'll return with your drink soon. Of course, there's no need to hurry, I appreciate it. Baxter lifted his existing baby Bellini with the drama of a supervillain. He wondered if he was being unaware or trying to put on a good show. The bartender threw his cleaning cloth over his shoulder and briskly abandoned his station. He disappeared through a curtained door beside the bar. You guessed that the real drink station was through there. You noticed the actual waiter bounced from table to table, fulfilling orders even during the performance. It made sense to keep the supplies somewhere off stage so that the bar could keep putting out drinks no matter what was happening with the story. Without the bartender, you and Baxter had to reorient yourselves as to where the action went. Most of the crowd's eyes were away from the tables. The friend character had scrambled out of the booth and paced along the length of the room. They were still troubled and stopped just short of biting their nails. Just as they clasped their hands together, the singer made her reappearance. Music swelled as she sashayed out of her dressing room, once more the center of attention. Her presence spellbound the crowd, instantly taking focus. Ah! The friend cautiously crept over to her, stepping around the tables between them. Feeling refreshed? Of course, darling, I'm a professional. Speaking of professionalism, why didn't you say hi to the bartender earlier? He is here, you know. The singer scoffed, echoing the exact same cadence the bartender had before. They were a perfect match of stubbornness. He doesn't like me. He made it very clear. He told his parents as much. He told my parents. She struck a defiant pose, sounding utterly disgusted. Who does that? What a cad. Her friend scratched the back of their head, their face twisted comically as they chose their words with care. Didn't you tell his parents that you did not like him when they suggested it? I also recall when your parents accused you of being attached to him. You denied it vehemently, with him in the room. The singer huffed, but didn't deny the events. She and the bartender's relationship was messy. And isn't it true that you do like our illustrious bartender? If your foolish parents hadn't meddled, you would be all over each other by now. Ha! The singer let out a deliberate, prideful laugh. It was dark and barely concealing very, very real hurt. Do not even pretend. He doesn't care for me, and I don't care for him. She cast her gaze over the pockets of attendees gathered around her and spread her arms wide. I bet everyone in this room heard him bad-mouthing me as soon as I left, didn't you? Well, I don't have the bead. Technically, you can still interact, but I think I would shake my head. Several other guests responded to the call. Some were casual, but others with necklaces got very into it. He's jealous you're a star. See? But have you seen his heart eyes for you? Sounds like you need to get your eyes checked. That's a death glare. All in all, the crowd seemed to go half and half between backing the singer and arguing with her. When the room finally settled and the singer had passed along a few more barbs about the bartender, the friend slung an arm around her. Can't you please hear me out? The singer groaned and shrugged out of her friend's embrace. She backed up with a frown. I need a drink. She spun to face the bar before thinking better of it. Apparently she didn't need a drink that badly. Not here, of course, I have standards. The sole of her shoes tapped on the floor. She needed action to deal with all that restless energy. I believe this counts as an emergency. Please hold. I need to fetch my crisis bottle from my purse. What the hell is going on? She stuck her nose high in the air and swaned off to her dressing room once more. Her friend sat alone in the center of the room. The crescendo of the music made the room quiet. In the distance, the door slammed. The diva reached her room. Her abandoned friend visibly winced at the anger of the noise. They closed their eyes and mentally counted to 10. Slowly, their stains unwound as they forced themselves to relax. They glanced furtively to the left and then to the right. Okay. The last actor left spoke to the entire room, projecting their voice loudly. While they're gone, does anyone have any ideas to get those two to admit their actual feelings? It's been weeks for me putting up with their arguments. I'm sorry to say, but I'm plumb out of ideas. People began to shout things out or whisper amongst the groups. The friend listened attentively, as if one suggestion might hold the key of their very survival. Not all the ideas were positive or even workable plans. Just give up. I'm too stubborn for that. They aren't getting out of this that easily. Lock them in the back room together until they confess. I tried that last week. My friend knows how to pick the lock. Try making the bartender jealous. Set her up with someone else. I'll do it. Wait, The friend spied a vase full of flowers on a table near the back. They scrambled to collect them into a bouquet. These should work. The flowers could be given to our singer in celebration to her performance. If she thinks they're from the bartender, maybe. This new electric smile on their face contrasted their previous expression. For a moment, though, they faltered. But I can't give these to her. She'll know immediately that they weren't from the bartender. Would anyone else be willing to help out? I know those two aren't giving the best impression, but when they aren't trying to prove each other wrong, they're very cute together. They searched through the crowd, brow furrowed. Please? After no one else stepped forward, Baxter lifted his hand politely.
I can do that.
I would not mind assisting. Thank you. The friend bounded over to Baxter and passed him the bouquet. He took it confidently and nodded. You're saving my sanity. They keep getting worse. Anyways, here's the plan. Although their tone was hushed as you'd be when sharing a secret, their pitch carried throughout the space. They were a talented actor, especially without any microphone to aid them. I'll go get her. You need to call her over and pretend the bartender got those flowers for her, but was too shy to hand them over directly. Agreed. I shall endeavor to make her believe me. The friend gave a thumbs up and scampered off to where the singer had left. Baxter inspected the flowers he held. The colors were vibrant. The bouquet would fit the starlit singer well, circumstances aside. A familiar smirk appeared on his lip. He delicately stroked a petal with the back of a knuckle. His voice was low in your ear. This is unlikely to work, but I do admire the friend's effort. I whispered your agreement. You laugh. You forced yourself not to laugh. But shush you, snickered. Shush, seriously insisted. You found him. Shush you, snickered. He affectionately tried to hush Baxter. His grin only grew. I think much of the crowd is skeptical. That part's fun. That's part of the fun. The door to the singer's dressing room swung open and the friend pulled the singer back into the main room. Their arms were locked together, but the singer was drying her very tall high heels all the way. In one manicured hand was a tiny bottle, no doubt the aforementioned emergency alcohol. It was already half gone. It's not good to stay holed up by yourself all the time. You don't need to hide from everyone. I'm not hiding. I'm simply very busy. Since they weren't a fool like the parents, the friend didn't buy that at all. Once the friend reached the center of the room, they released the singer. She rolled her shoulders back, still offended by the rough treatment. Showtime.
Hello.
Excuse me. Baxter leaned back on his bar stool, almost lazily, and waved at the singer. I hate to bother you while you're so busy, but I have a gift for you. The singer dramatically faced him, her hair swishing with the movement. She sized him up, the flowers catching her attention. His smile was calm as he held the bouquet out to her. It's from an admirer. Boldly, the singer walked up to him. He was clacking all the way. She was interested but suspicious. What admirer? Why, it was the bartender. How unexpected. Miss Starlet gasped and pressed both hands to her chest. She squinted hard at the flowers as if it was a nest of snakes. She unscrewed the cap of her small bottle and tipped it down between her pursed lips. She chugged the remaining liquid down. That got a huge laugh from the audience. She slammed her empty bottle down on the bar's counter and gasped for air with a frightening glare. But gently and slowly, ever so slowly, she reached out. Her fingertips touched a single flower stem. She paused, then finished the movement and wrapped her digits around it. Baxter patiently remained still for as long as she needed to process the present. Without warning, there came a shout from the far end of the bar. "Got your drink right here!" Every head turned to see the bartender making his reappearance, a tray of drinks balanced in his right arm. "Sorry for the wait, just had to..." He froze mid-sentence, staring at the scene he'd returned to witness. The singer standing next to Baxter, being offered a bouquet, a single flower clutched in her hand. It was deathly quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. Even the band had stopped playing. Until... Suddenly, the singer let out a mortified shriek. She flung the proffered flower and bolted, beating a frantic, desperate escape. She careened around the corner and then... Slam! The deafening sound of a door being rammed shut. Another awful silence formed. Having remained frozen when the singer fled, the bartender's attention returned to where you and Baxter were at the bar. His eyes were drilling holes into Baxter, his glare darting between his face and the remains of the bouquet, which he was still holding. He'd been caught red-handed, literally on account of the roses. It was unspeakably awkward, even though your brain was screaming, "It's not real!" You couldn't help but be swept up in the overwhelming sense of unease filling the room. Slowly, the bartender marched over to the counter, his footsteps weighty and full of intent. He firmly set down the tray of drinks. The glasses rattled angrily, but not a drop was spilled. Then he cocked his hip and folded his muscular arms, striking a pose which felt almost threatening and bristled with suspicion. "Well now, I see how it is." He flicked a finger up and down, sizing Baxter up with it. "So this piano-headed chump is who I'm losing to. Really?" The rather silly epithet got a fair number of titters from the audience, but the bartender wasn't laughing. He made a bitter sound at the back of his throat and shook his head. He muttered angrily under his breath, "I should have known." "Wait!" A cry came from the other side of the room. The mutual friend, face distraught, was bustling their way over, limbs flapping with panic. "I can explain. It's all a misunderstanding. What I'm trying to say is..." Stumbling over their own words, the friend attempted to lay out the situation. The flowers were all part of a plan to get the singer to admit to her own feelings. As the friend nervously rambled, Baxter placed the bouquet down on the counter, cautiously but firmly. Then he threaded his fingers together in a silent promise to swear off the florals. At first, you weren't convinced it would work. The bartender's expression was thunderous as a somber rain cloud. His brows were set in a 90-degree angle, stern as steel. But as some of the other patrons began to chime in with words of confirmation, his dark countenance began to clear. A number of emotions melted into each other on his face. Anger became confusion, confusion became understanding, and understanding became acceptance. He let out a long, tired sigh and unfolded his arms. Okay, I hear ya. You were only trying to help. I'm sorry." This is quite interesting. Is this something that happens in reality? Is there like a play that's like very interactive with the audience as well? Very immersive? That's interesting. But anyway, thank you guys for watching today's episode. I'm gonna stop for today for my recording session. Clearly I'm still very tired and I keep yawning and my throat hurts. So thank you guys for watching today's episode. Stay beautiful and I'll see you guys in the next one.